to the Smerick Art Studio. Today we're going to turn an ordinary little wooden box into a keepsake box that is going to be treasured for a long time. Let's get started. We're going to need our wooden box as the keepsake box. We are going to need some feet. You don't necessarily have to put feet on. I'm going to use these little draw pins, and once I remove the little pegs, I'm going to use the sandpaper just to sand that down, and I'm also going to use the pliers to remove the little things, the little pegs, because it is quite difficult to do that. And we're going to need a splat mat, a paintbrush, as well as some Mod Podge. And what we're going to do with that is we are going to paint or seal in a piece of scrapbooking paper, and the reason we do that is just to make it a little bit more durable for the inside of the little box. We're going to need our pewter, and the size we're going to need is to fit your box. I'm going to use or start off the embossing using an embossing folder. If you don't have an embossing folder, you can do everything by hand as well. And I'm also going to use my little cuddlebuck to run it through. But again, if you only have the embossing folder and not a cuddlebuck, you can just use a paper stump, and you can go over it first with a roller and then the paper stump, and you will be able to get the same effect. There is an actual fact a video where I show how to do that. As for the pewter, we are going to need a couple of tools there. We're going to need, as usual, our paper stumps, a finishing tool just to make sure that everything is adhere good. We're going to need our Teflon tip tools, a stylus, and I'm going to use the Wave texture wheel just to create a border around the design. We're going to need our water-based permanent marker for the Faux Patina. I'm just going to do Faux Patina on this one, and with that goes the paper towel as well. We're going to need some Sookwang tape to adhere everything together except the little feet, that I'm going to use the 450 quick dry adhesive for that. And we'll most probably use some scissors, a cutting mat, what do you call it, cutting knife as well. And then of course our surfaces, the free work surfaces for the metal embossing, and some paint because we need to paint the little wooden box. Okay, that is a long list of supplies that we're going to need, but now we're actually going to start using them. I'm using acrylic paint and a paintbrush, and I'm just going to start painting, and it's literally just starting from the one side over to the other side. And I also removed the front hardware. I didn't remove the ones on the inside because I figure if they get some paint on there, it would be easy to wipe. And I'm not going to change the color because I'm going to be working with yellows and creams, so I think the color will match the gold, so I'm not going to do anything. So I'm quickly going to continue on and just paint the inside as well as the outside. Already run my pewter through the embossing machine, and what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to come in with my stylus. Actually, I think I'm going to use my Teflon tool, my Teflon tip tool, and I'm just going to outline this and refine it. And the reason why I'm doing this is I would like to pop it a little bit more. Actually, no, you know what? I've decided I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to come in straight with my, the metal, and I'm going to just reline it because you do get a crisp one with the embossing machine. But I still like to just come in and add a little bit more. So with the refining, it is like always, you come in as close as what you can, and you're just going to reline everything. And then looking at this, I do decide it afterwards. No, I think I would like to pop it a little bit more. So I'm not going to do much, but just to give it a little bit more definition. And as you can see, it's very little that I do that, but it's just sort of a flat. And some of the petals I push out or pop a little bit higher than the others, so that they are not all the one dimension as it was from running it through the machine. Oh yeah, immediately it just looks like there's a little bit more movement to the flower by just popping it out slightly. Okay, so I think I'm quickly going to do with the other two flowers as well as with the leaf, and then we can move on to working with the background. I'm not going to use color on the hardware, but it was just easier to paint over them. And so the next step, or next, I'm going to paint the outside of the little box. And once that is completed, I guess then we will definitely move on to the next step. Paint and you come to the corners, just always make sure that it's nice and smooth and you don't have these little ridges, the same as what you would paint anything else. You don't necessarily have to paint the lid on top because we're going to add the pewter there, but I would at least paint around so that if there is an area where the pewter doesn't take, or you know, when you cut it or glue it, and it's slightly smaller, that's what I wanted to say, that it's slightly smaller than what the lid is, then at least you don't have to come back and do that. So I'm going to put this again, I'm going to put this aside to dry and just keep it up so that it don't close, and then we will continue on with the background of our pewter. The next one is just the background. And as for the background, I haven't really given any thought to that on what I would like to do, but I think, this is something I'm busy with, another project that's here, and I think I'm going to use this. Let me just see, how does this one look? Oh yeah, no, I think I'm going to use this. So this is going to, and I'm just going to put it down just to give some texture, and let's see, well, it can either work or not work. Oh yeah, that looks good. And I'm going to go at different angles and just keep on. So anything that you can find that is going to give you texture on the background, just use that. So it's not a definite one, so I don't go into all the I'm not going to go, let me rephrase, I'm not going to go in with a Teflon tip tool and accentuate all that, the little markings that's there. So it is literally just some markings for a background. So there's so many things that you can use for this. Yeah, so I'm going to keep on moving this. Actually, I wonder if I bring some of this in here somewhere. Just to give it a little bit of differentiation as well. and I actually think I like this one more. So I'm going to continue on all around with this quickly. Having a look at this, it just looks really busy for me now, busier than what I would have liked it to be. So that bright idea wasn't so bright after all. And what I'm doing now is I'm just coming in with my paper pad. Oh, my paper pad, my paper stump. And I'm just flattening it. So there will still be, I mean, the design will still be there, but it won't be as prominent as what it was. So when you do things and you know, you don't like it, I mean, yeah, I'm not going to get 100% rid of this, but at least now by doing it this way, there is still a background. There's still some texture on the background, but it is not as defined as what it was before. Yeah, this is way, way, way better. But I still like the idea of using these as a background. So what I'm going to do is, I think I'm just going to come in with my Teflon tip tool and just quickly refine around again and fill it up with wax, and then we can move on. Filled with beeswax, and I'm just going to come in and right in the center here, just going to do a little bit of bubbles. I don't think I'm going to do anything on the flowers. These leaves just look a little bit too rigid for me, so I think I'm just going to come in and do a little bit. Oops, and there I went skew. Yeah, it's actually better to do this once your wax have completely set, but just for time wise, I can't wait for the wax to harden completely. I guess I can, but sometimes okay, so I'll just do another one in this one. This is one of those imperfect flowers that this little daisy has on. And I'm still playing whether I'm going to add some color to the daisies and the leaves or not. I can't make up my mind, but I think I might make my final decision when I have it on here and I actually see how it is looking. I'm going to draw some lines here, and I'm going to put the border around, then I know this is finished, except for in case I want to put the color on. So where is my ruler? There is my ruler, and I don't want to go, but I can't draw a straight line for the life of me. So I was thinking maybe if I sort of measure this, and I actually have another ruler that I use. And I really use these little marks of the rulers as guides a lot of the time. I just find it sometimes it's easier to use that. So I'm going to draw a line, and I just want to see if it's visible on the back. Yep, I'm able to see it. So where it comes to this, I'll stop there. Roughly about there, and I'll start there again, because I don't want to go into my design with the sort of the frame or the border. To see, yes, it's still visible on the back. I guess I could have just done it on the back too, but yeah, I always choose the hard way out. Why, I will never know. I think I'll come into this point here and stop, and there and stop. Okay, so I'm going to go work on the back on my paper pad. Actually, no, I think I'm going to go onto the semi-soft surface. And I'm going to use the Wavy Wheel. And I'm going to try and stay on the line. I hope I will be able to stay on the line all the way, because that is really challenging for me. So this will also add a little bit of movement to the design. I think like I might just let me don't jinx myself and talk too soon. But so far, so good. Oh yeah. Wow. I've stayed on a line for a change. And now I'm just going to come in and I'm sort of going to flatten it. And I'm first going to go on the inside of my design. And I'm going to flatten the pewter. And this is on the, I'm still working on the inside of the frame. And then I will come and flatten the outside. Okay, so now we have some more definition. I'm going to come in with my Teflon tip tool, and because this is a wavy wheel, I'm just going to mimic the waves that is there. And so I'm doing this first on the outside, and as soon as I'm done with this, I will do it on the inside as well. Let me do this stretch on the inside, and then you don't have to sit and watch me. And get in that corner. And you can see, you just follow the line. So now you have a definite little border around your design. On second thoughts, I've decided I'm first going to do the Faux Patina before I'm going to move on to the finishing off the little keepsake box, just so that then I know this is finished, except for if I decide to do the coloring. With Faux Patina, we're going to come in and we are going to color in our pewter, and then we're going to wipe some of it down again, and when we wipe, we always wipe in the same direction. Next up is the Sookwang tape. So I'm going to start adding the Sookwang tape to all the components. And what I've done in the meantime as well is I have added Mod Podge on both sides of the scrapbooking paper. And these are embossed. So when you do the Mod Podge on the embossings, just make sure that it does get into all the little cavities that's there. And I have also cut them to size. I have just measured the inside of the lid as well as the bottom of the and now of course it is going to be just too wide or not big enough. Okay, so that is down and long. Okay, oh, I can do the long strips there. So I'm just going to put the next one down. I have taken these ones and I have removed these little pegs because if you work with a really thick wood, or if you put it right onto the corners, you can actually just punch it in there or hammer it in there, but I'm going to glue mine on. What I do find with the plywood is sometimes it actually just split when you can't concentrate and talk at the same time. It just splits when you add something sharp to it. So that's why I usually just remove those things, and that's why we needed the pliers. As you can see, we definitely need the pliers for that. Okay, and I've cut 2 strips. Oh, what I've decided to do with these was as well, when you look at the little box, I'm going to add the thin strips around the lid of the little box. So I'm going to cut these out and then we can start with our assembling. Okay, we can start assembling, and always remember when you do things like this, do a dry fit, because if it's too big or too small, and once you have it down with the Sookwang tape, you're really going to struggle to get it out, or you know, if you use a different glue. So just always try and do that dry fit. So I'm going to start with the bottom one, and these two were exactly the same size. Oh, you know what, looking at that, there's a nice little daisy sort of right in the center. I actually could have used this one for the top. Oh well, it's in at the bottom now. So, and I'm just using my paper stump, which was not a good idea because it just made a mark. I'll get into my little stylus, and I'm just going to push this down to make sure that it adheres very well. But yeah, and then next is I'm going to just go around. So I wonder if I start around like that, it's going to join at a very weird place. So I think what I'll do, yeah, I'll start from the one side and to open this slightly. So I'm going to have the 2 daisies there. And I'm going to try and go as straight as what I can. Oh, you're always going to hear me laughing when I talk about going straight, because that is not something that I can do very well. And just press it down. And the same on this side. And it's just something different. I mean, I do add a lot of pewter on the lid, on the outside of the lids as well. Oh wow, this one just make it so we will need to trim this slightly. Oops. To leave place for the hardware. Okay, let's see if I've got deep enough. If not, I can just go back in. Yeah, no, it needs a little bit deeper. I guess this could have been easier if you removed the hardware, because then you just could have just added the hardware on top of this. But I really didn't feel like removing the hardware, and now it's a nice cream color. Okay. So I'm going to join these up, and I'm not going to put them on top of each other. I'm literally just going to put them right next to each other. You can see on the top, it needs a little bit extra work. I might just need to trim the corners slightly. And when I look at the corners, I just give it a slight trim there. And come in and flatten it again. This one looks good. Okay, so now the front part of our little box, or the top, is done. And this is what I usually do when I have little joints like this. Whenever I do cover something and I cut away the corners, I usually keep those things, and I use this to touch up or just have a little bit of an accent for things like this. So this one is actually, I like this one. And this happens to be exactly the right width. So I'll just cut a strip off, and I'm going to place it down. And I'm going to flatten it down to make sure that it is adhere very well. So see, there's different ways that you can actually use your scraps. I mean, you can make something for this, but I just figure this works very well. Now there's my other joint. And you can even go this far when you do things like this, where you can add these little accents on all four the sides. But for me, I think this is working good, just on where the paper connects. Giving this a quick polish, and at the same time we're also adhering our pewter to the Sookwang tape, or the Sookwang tape to the pewter, whichever way you want to go. And looking at this, I do think I'm going to add some colors to the little daisies and the leaves. I will go and grab my alcohol inks. I'm just going to try and center it as best as what I can. Place it down. Oops. And just make sure that it goes down properly, especially on the corners. So what I'm pushing down here is the part that is on the outside of the little border that we've made. So just make sure that that goes down properly, because if it is going to lift, that would be where it will lift. Okay. So don't feel like there's any sharp edges or corners. And now this looks so nice. I think what I'm going to do, apart from adding some color on this box, I think I'm just going to come in with a little bit of color here. Let me just think what I can do there. I've pulled out this Faux Saffron, and I'm just going to do a little bit, of color on here. Just almost following the grain. So that it's just not that stark cream color. Oh yeah, this makes such a huge difference. And this is the thing, you know, sometimes when you look at your project, it's always good to add something just to take it up that next notch or level. And this is definitely what this stamp pad ink has done. It makes a huge, well, for me in any case, a huge difference on the little bowl. Okay, so I still think I'm going to come in and do some yellow and color on the daisies and the leaves. But before I'm going to do that, I'm quickly going to glue on the feet. Then that can sit so long. And I'm just going to measure it, more or less. Let's see what I can do. If I put this on. Oh, and there it stopped. I think this is enough for all 4 of them. Oh, now there's some more coming out. Okay, now I'm just going to see that they are more or less straight. And I'm just eyeballing this. You can literally come in and really measure it. But I'm not. I'm just eyeballing this, and there is a little bit of glue that is seeping out. Oh, that looks so cute. This one has to go a little bit more to the side. Oh yeah, you can't see how cute it looks when it stands. So that's how cute it looks from the side. Okay, so while I'm going to grab my alcohol inks, I'm going to put this down, and I'm just going to put the Sookwang tape for some weight, and then we will move on. Grab my piece of paper from earlier today. Earlier I used Meadows, and now I'm going to come in with Lettuce, which is slightly more of a brighter green, or more vibrant, I don't really know how to say it, than what the Meadows is. And I just think this one will look better, or will be more suited than the Meadows for this project. For the leaves, the little daisy leaves, I do not have white alcohol ink. What happened to the lid now? I do not have white alcohol ink, but I do have the pole one, and I think I'm going to use that. Okay, let's see how that's going to work. Maybe I must just quickly get the I'm going to go for a more yellow, sunshine yellow for the little centers of the daisies. I'm going to do sunshine yellow today on this project. Can't really say that it's more, yeah, it's definitely more yellower, brighter than the butterscotch that I've used earlier today. Okay, so we've got our daisy centers in, and now it is the petals, but I think I am going to clean my brush between the two now, because I do not want any of the color on there. Okay, and let's hope for the best with the pearl. As I said, I have no idea. I've actually never used the pearl on metal before, so this is going to be a first for me. So the pearl is one of the fixatives, so it might be more solid than what I want, but let's see. Okay. Oh yeah, it makes, yeah, it is definitely, it's not as translucent as what the other alcohol inks is, but it gives us the white that we want. And there you go. So I'm going to go all around, and I'm quickly going to do all the petals on the daisies. As for the hardware, I know I said I'm not going to do anything, but it was just too cold when I looked at the whole thing. So what I've done is I've just took my silver Sharpie and I came in and I color it all over. And the next step is I'm just using the water-based permanent marker. You can use a different Sharpie as well, but I find this is working well for me. And I just go over this again, give it a second or two, and then I'm going to wipe it off. As soon as the alcohol ink has settled, I will definitely go in and seal it with a sealer. And as for the rest of the box at the bottom, I will add a layer of matte Podge to it, just to seal the paint in. Okay, of course we could have gone in and just did the hardware the same as the back, the color of the paint. We could have done that too, but because this one is going to take a little bit more wear and tear, I just think the paint is going to wear off way quicker and sooner than what the oh, see, now there's alcohol on, so I can clean my fingers with that. Okay, yeah, so I think the Sharpie and the black will take longer to work off than what the paint will. Okay, put this back in. See if I can find the little hole. And so as for the little screws, that is still sort of the goldish color, but what I will do is I will just touch that up once it's in, because I just think it's easier to do it that way, personally. Okay. Obviously, I don't think this one is going into the same hole as what it was before, but it's going down and it's going in. at this point, if you don't like the, you know, how it looks, you can always still come in with your paint and just paint it, or you can bring in the alcohol inks and you can just remove it. No, this one doesn't want to go flush. Okay. It should fit in the holes there. You can actually use your stylus and just sort of make the hole. Would have been easier if we just marked the holes. Could have done that too. But again, that would be way too easy to do. Oh, yes, this one rather. Okay, you can sit now for hours and watch me struggle here. I think I'm just going to start this one. So once this is done, I'll just come in again with my Sharpie. Give it a quick dot with the pen. And now you just have to wipe careful that you don't wipe that off onto your design. We went from this to this. We painted our box and then we added some Mod Podge to some scrapbooking paper, which we have put a band around here as well as on the inside. For our lid, we did some metal embossing using an embossing folder, but you can just emboss the design, that any design that you had. And then we added some color using some alcohol inks. It was the first time that I've actually used the fixative on the metal. And although it's not as translucent as what the alcohol ink is, it is still more translucent than what acrylic paint would have been. We've touched up the hardware and eventually got, well, eventually I got that in. So yeah, I really think our little box came out nice. Oh, and we just added some extra color with stamp pad ink as well. Thank you so much for spending time with me in the studio today. And always remember, the world of reality has its limits. The world of imagination is boundless.